Hello. Today I'll walk you through an assessment of Disney's ESG strategy, focusing on how well its ambitions translate into execution and where there are opportunities to strengthen impact, particularly across its value chain. Disney's ESG priorities are well aligned with its brand and business model. The company demonstrates strong disclosure, especially regarding social impact and its people strategy. However, while reporting is comprehensive and aligned to global frameworks, it is also complex. Execution also appears uneven due to accountability being distributed across multiple leaders and functions, with no single owner overseeing the end-to-end process. In addition, ESG is not yet fully embedded in all operations, and there is a gap between the narrative and delivery, particularly on some environmental targets. A key challenge is reliance on third parties for Scope 3 emissions, representing about 84% of total emissions. To address this, Disney should move beyond managing reporting outcomes and use its scale and influence to shape the systems that drive impact across its value chain. Overall, Disney is on the right path, but stronger execution and alignment are needed to realise its long-term value. Disney is broadly prioritising the most material ESG issues. Its impact is both physical and societal, making representation, inclusion and responsible storytelling core business drivers. Key priorities include workforce and inclusion, climate and environmental impact, human rights and supply chain, and content and guest experience. Compared to peers such as Warner Bros. Discovery, there is broad alignment on climate and workforce priorities, but Disney goes further in recognising content and audience impact as material to its ESG strategy. However, there is an imbalance. Social impact is Disney's strongest area, while environmental priorities, though comprehensive, are less central to value creation and sometimes lack specificity. That is particularly important given that approximately 84% of emissions fall under Scope 3 and are beyond Disney's control. Overall, Disney is focused on the right issues, but environmental priorities could be elevated to match the depth of its social agenda. Disney operates within a highly complex stakeholder landscape, reflecting both its scale and the strength of its brand. Stakeholders not only inform ESG priorities, but also influence how the company responds to risk, regulation, and public expectations. While governance is well established, influence extends beyond formal structures due to brand and reputational sensitivity. Stakeholder power is also dynamic. Groups such as employees can quickly increase their influence through media, social, or political pressure. The IGC impact case highlights this, where Disney's response to new Florida legislation escalated into regulatory, financial, and reputational risk. This highlights a key challenge. Without clear stakeholder prioritization, conflicting pressures can lead to reactive decisions and inconsistent execution. There are also missed opportunities. Creative talent, despite their reach and role in shaping Disney's brand and cultural influence, are not prominently reflected in the ESG strategy. Overall, stakeholder dynamics are both a source of risk and opportunity, directly shaping Disney's societal impact and its financial exposure. This complexity is also reflected in how ESG performance is measured and delivered. Disney's ESG disclosure is strong and aligned with major global frameworks, enhancing credibility but also adding complexity, which makes performance harder to assess and compare over time. The company has committed to a 46.2% reduction in Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 2030, alongside net zero operations. However, progress is slightly behind, with a 16 to 17% reduction achieved between 2019 and 2024, versus a 20% required to stay on track at that point. More importantly, a significant proportion of emissions sit outside of Disney's direct control, making delivery heavily dependent on suppliers and partners. As a result, execution requires both internal action and external influence, and will depend on Disney's ability to accelerate progress and strengthen its impact across the value chain, highlighting a broader gap between the narrative and reality. Overall, Disney presents a strong and well-structured ESG narrative, closely aligned with its brand and values. However, there are gaps between ESG positioning and execution. As we've discussed, in climate, progress is slightly behind target. In governance, structures are well established, but accountability is diffused with no single owner. Stakeholder engagement is strong, but competing pressures can lead to reactive responses under pressure. Social impact is a clear strength, particularly in diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, it is also where political tensions are most visible. More broadly, reporting is highly curated with limited visibility of the trade-offs and challenges Disney faces. Overall, while the narrative is compelling, execution remains uneven and at times reactive. These gaps directly inform the recommendations. There are 4 key recommendations designed to strengthen execution and long-term impact. The first is strengthen ESG accountability by appointing a single executive owner and linking executive incentives directly to ESG performance. The second is to embed ESG into investment and operational decisions, integrating ESG into capital allocation so it becomes part of how decisions are made across the business. Thirdly, evolve the stakeholder strategy from reactive to proactive. As the UN highlights, multi-stakeholder partnerships are essential to delivering sustainability outcomes. Disney is uniquely positioned to use its scale and influence to shape its ecosystem through strong partnerships, clearer decision frameworks, and scenario planning. Finally, take a system-based approach to Scope 3, improving supplier engagement, data consistency, and accountability. So to summarise, Disney's ESG priorities are well aligned with its brand, business model, and stakeholders. The company demonstrates strong intention and disclosure. However, gaps remain between ambition and delivery. Execution and accountability are key challenges, with ESG not yet fully integrated into all operations. This creates potential stakeholder and political risk, alongside execution risk from reliance on third parties for Scope 3 emissions. Addressing this will require a shift in approach towards system thinking, actively shaping the ecosystem rather than solely managing the outcomes in isolation. For Disney, this means using its scale and influence to drive change across its value chain and the broader industry. Overall, Disney is on the right track, but must fully embed ESG as a strategic business lever and lead in the system in which it operates. Thank you for your time.